welcome to another episode of Stuck in My Mind podcast. I am your host, Wize, and today's guests are proof that art and story can transform lives. One is an award-winning impressionist artist, entrepreneur, and co-author of the acclaimed book, I Am Pink. The other is a multi-book author, content creator, yoga and Pilates instructor, and an astrology specialist who helps people align body, mind, and spirit. Together, they created I Am Pink, a book that blends art, writing, and resilience into a message of authenticity and empowerment. Get ready for a conversation about creativity, healing, and what it means to live and create authentically. Please welcome to the show, Gregory and Dani.
Hi, everybody.
Hey.
Happy to be here.
Hey, guys. Thanks for being on the show. I greatly appreciate it. So let's just jump right into it. So, Greg, what first drew you to Impressionist art, and how did it become your outlet for expression?
Well, my dad passed away in 2001 and he oil painted. And I never really oil painted before that. I sculpted, but I really didn't oil paint. And to honor him and keep his spirit, strong in my life, I started painting. And I've always kind of been drawn to more like impressionist, dreamy, kind of landscape quality, people kind of floating faces in the clouds type thing. So I've always sort of been connected to that. Even when I go to museum, I would appreciate more the impressionist art than I would, let's say, the modern art, like the Rothko stuff. Didn't really understand it, understood that it was meditative and that people received stuff from it, but I personally didn't connect with it. And so it was really my dad passing away and an homage to him that I started painting.
Awesome. So then you ran multiple books and built a career as a creator and teacher. What sparked your journey?
Well, I've always sort of sought to sort of intersect where the mystical and the creative and the cultural / even political kind of meet each other. And my parents split up when I was very young, and when my father remarried, he remarried a woman who was an astrologer, a tarot reader, a palmist, a numerologist, and this was in the late 60s. I was very little at the time, and this was when those types of things weren't mainstream yet. And when they married and they bought their home, in the living room was this huge library of nothing but these mystical books on all these different mystical arts. And when I was 7, 8 years old, I started to read them. And I found a deep, almost like I knew this stuff already and I was reminding myself of it. It was the strangest thing, like it was like a past life connection or something. And so I've always found those types of things to anchor me when then I go out into the world and I address what's going on in the larger collective. And I've done readings as a professional to help people sort of align with their soul path. But more lately, I've kind of also taken it more into the collective with what's going on now culturally, generationally, politically, as well as continuing to work with people kind of one-to-one.
So tell us the story behind I Am Pink. How did the idea emerge and evolve into a published book?
I always let Dani take this one because I just go ahead, Dani, take it.
Well, actually, I think Greg should start because that's kind of like chronologically, it was his baby to begin with, and then we became co-parents.
Yeah. So I kind of vomited it out in a draft, and then I sent it to Dani. Unbeknownst to me, most of the story takes place in Kauai. Unbeknownst to me, Dani was in Kauai at the time that I sent her the draft, and I didn't know she was there. She was having not a very connected time there, and this draft came through, and it sort of reconnected her to the island, reconnected her to me. And she started to pivot a little bit and understand that this journey that she was on with these other people or whatever, that she could still have the journey that she usually has on the island, which is, a little bit more joyful and connected for her. So it really started with Dani and I visiting Kauai the first time. The island was just magical, as most people know, very spiritual island. We ran into this woman, true story, and a lot of it is true. Ran into this woman on the beach, or she ran into me. I don't even remember really. I was on the beach. She bumps into me and she calls me Pink, and she like disappears. She had like like half kind of broken hair. She looked almost like she could be like a witch or something. And I felt like I was being tested by how I would connect with her. For some reason, I felt something very powerful with her. And so she disappeared. I don't know where she went. I went to look back and she called me Pink. That was it. So jump forward. Janny and I went to the island again, and we're in a different beach, and we're in the middle, literally, of the Pacific Ocean. And there's this splash, and she's like, "Oh, isn't this so healing? It's the same woman." And I was like, Danny, it's the same woman. I was just really freaking out because the island, this weird stuff happens there. Danny and I've had almost near-death experiences there. Just weird stuff happens. So this woman just remained in my mind. I had adventures with sea turtles and all kinds of stuff that connected to the island. The people were very spiritual and very deep, and very connected to the nature of the island and the animals, and blocking off, like when a turtle would come on shore, they'd block off with rocks to make sure that no one would bother the turtle. So there was something deep that was happening to me when I got back from that island, and felt the need to just start writing about it. I didn't know, where I was going to go or what I was going to do with it. I just wanted to talk about some of my adventures, and then, obviously with the help of Dani, we were able to, turn it into something really meaningful. And this woman that we bumped into on the beach ends up being one of the main characters, of the book. So.
And then when Greg handed it off to me, like he said, I was on the island. He didn't know I was there when he sent me the draft, and I was sort of alpha team leader of a group of people who really kind of wanted to have a very sort of earthly experience. They wanted to, play golf and find out what the corkage fees were at the restaurants, and that was and I'm my experience of the island is almost wordless most of the time. I just want to go into this deep place and then attract to myself the people and the experiences that kind of help me to grow. But so I'm like having this earthly experience going, okay. And he sends me this thing, and I read it, and I thought, this is what the island wants me to do right now, is to tell this story. Because every time I'd been to the island before, and I had been several times, there was always a lesson, something that I really needed to learn. And this time it was telling me, okay, you're going to take these lessons that you've learned, and then you're going to just throw them back out there into the world. That's your mission this time. So it was very interesting how that rock in the middle of the Pacific always calls me, I think everybody, to do something when they visit it.
Yeah, lots of messages there for sure.
So both of you have walked unique paths. Where did resilience play the biggest role in your story?
Danny, you want to take it?
In my personal story, resilience is something that, it's an interesting term, because a lot of people think that resilience means that you just almost don't process, you just bounce back, and, you're stronger because you suffered. And I don't really see resilience that way. When I think of resilience for myself, think of the things that I have survived. I lost my husband in 2017 to a really, devastating illness. I went through a difficult divorce before that. I've had fractured family relationships and friendships along the way, and all of those have called for me to, I don't know if I want to call it be resilient, but to take some granule of wisdom from that, so that I didn't turn into a bitter person and then just pay all that forward. So I would have to say that every life experience I have that doesn't go as planned, and let's face it, that saying, we plan, God laughs, is very true. All of that has called for me to, I don't want to say bounce back, but to deepen and to flow in a very special and specific way. I never want to bounce back from anything I've been through to be who I was before, because where's the growth in that? So I would say, to answer your question, pretty much being a human being has been a path of resilience as people think about it, but I like to think about it more as an integration into my personal fabric of everything that's ever happened to me.
Yeah, I mean, for me, resilience, without it, I wouldn't have made it. I mean, even from a small child, came from a really abusive childhood, really scary, coming home from school, like opening the door would just race my heart. I lived that way for a long time. And I think it was the survival mode and the resilience that kept me moving forward, to know, like, go to college, get out of this situation. This is temporary. You can do this. Building my own business creates a lot of a lot of resilience, because there's a lot of moments when you don't believe and it's not working. You go and you start changing your Google ad and you're changing your Facebook and Instagram. We've all done this a million times, those of us who run our own business, and it's happening to me right now. September is just kind of slow, and I'm like, just have faith, believe. It's okay. It's not about changing things. It's about the flow of life. It's seasonal, and this is what's happening, and trying to find the calm and the peace within it. But there's a lot. I mean, working in Hollywood for 25 years, I mean, talk about, just have to be resilient. I was a director of special events at Sony Pictures Entertainment, and I would have never been able to be successful at that job without kind of clawing my way out of the darkness and getting away from the obsessive, impulsive gossip, and just, really doing good work. But it's finding that inner strength to believe that you can actually, you know, get through. And a lot of therapy too. I mean, I think we all should go visit, a therapist, and, enjoy that journey. I started therapy, as abusive as my mom was. She was into like the guru yoga and meditation. So I would take, transcendental meditation, but she'd take me to therapy. And then the therapist would be like, can I have a few moments, alone with your son? And then she'd leave, and the therapist would give me his card or her card and say, look, you're in danger. We know you're in danger. If you need to, call me, or you need to contact me. And then my mom would find out something, or she didn't align with that therapist. So we'd go to another one, and then they do the same thing. And then my principals in my school, everybody kind of reached out and came together like angels and said, hey, look, we know what's going on. You're doing great. You've got this huge support system around you. Don't worry about it. We got you. So resilience comes from me, but it also comes from the support system and the other people around you that lift you up. Without them, I wouldn't have made it. I really wouldn't have made it. I would have checked out early for sure.
So, Gregory, how did Stir Up the Paint come to life, and why was sparking creativity in others so important to you?
Yeah. Yeah. So Stir Up the Paint, I was unemployed. I answered a really cheesy ad on Craigslist for a licensee for a company, a paint and sip company. And I didn't want to go. And a voice was like, you know what, walk through the door. If you don't like it, there's an exit door. You got to start showing up. You're not showing up. So I went, and I ended up going early, because I always go early, and nobody was there. And the owner happened to be there. And I ended up um, getting that gig. And I built that business into a $500,000 business. It was really incredible and rewarding. But I wanted more of an art therapy component. I wanted to combine my event background at Sony with my art experience with my spirituality. So I wanted to combine those three. And the other company was doing shots and drinking, and they really didn't care about the end result. And I was more about, the education, the spiritual alignment of lifting people up. Like, why are you afraid to paint the canvas black? Where does the anxiety come from? It's holding you back. Do you think we can't change the canvas from black to another color? Just like you can change your path and you can pivot, you can change anything. What is this that happens within us when we're creating that kind of like holds us back? We talk about critical artists and teachers that got a hold of them when they were younger, and shut them down. And so they're afraid to create because they were told they were bad, or they didn't get the validation. Creating is really just about the freedom of expression. It's really not about judgment. And so I wanted it to be about that, judgment free, critique free. And so being unemployed, kind of laid on the floor and did a little prayer, big prayer actually. And I went to that, I answered that ad and ended up getting that. And then I figured it out on my own, what I wanted it to be. And then eventually that company wasn't a fit for me, and I left, and I started my own brand since about 2013. I've been doing it ever since.
So, Dani, how did your background in yoga, Pilates, and astrology shape your perspective on healing and living authentically?
Well, I was in the fitness field for a long time before really getting into yoga, and so much of fitness is performative. It's like, what am I wearing the best outfit? Does my body look the best? Can I do the most reps? Can I use the most amount of weight? Look at me, look at me, look at me, especially, here in California where I live. And I was involved in that world for a long time. I taught barre. that's a big pursuit, and everybody is very, very body conscious in those classes. It's really a hoot if you actually ever take one. But one of the other gifts that Kauai gave me, when Greg and I were there, I think it was the second time, we took a yoga class, and we took it from this woman who was really very connected, both to the island, but also to what yoga really is. And yoga, in Sanskrit, it means union. And yeah, a lot of yoga, like hot yoga and all that stuff, is very performative still. People get into their egos big time in yoga classes. But I wound up getting certified by that woman in Kauai. And then later on, I got my advanced certification online. But her whole thing was that it was permission-based yoga, where you get to decide day to day how your body is going to serve you, how you're going to serve your body. And one day you may really want to build a lot of heat and be gymnastic, and another day you may want to be in deep rest and just use a ton of pillows, blankets, and blocks to support you, because you can't support yourself, either what you're going through physically, emotionally, mentally. And so that journey really helped me dial into the fact that authenticity isn't like getting to the top of Mount Everest, and when you get there, you go, hey, I'm authentic now, everybody look at me. It's day to day. It's, am I presenting in a real way today, even if that real way is completely messy, completely off path, completely not how I want to show up in life, regularly, but to have the courage to just show up however I am. That kind of gave me permission not just to do yoga in a way that felt right, but in a permission to live my life in a way that felt right, to get involved in wrong relationships for the wrong reasons, to have messed up friendships because I needed to be in those situations to get to the next place. One of my favorite sayings that one of my friends who's in AA recovery says, she says, you know what? No one I know is walking on water yet. I'm like, you know what? We're not. Nobody's walking on water. We're flailing and we're swimming, and if we're lucky, someone throws us a life vest. But a lot of times we're just learning to swim as we go. So I would say that whole mantra of what do I want to give myself permission to do or be today is kind of the one guiding light. And a lot of times it's really cringe. I'm not going to lie. I ain't walking on water. I'm not the Dalai Lama yet. So if it's cringe, it's probably as authentic as it's going to get.
Yes. Danny, careful with your microphones hitting your jewelry, and it's making a lot of clanking
Oh,
sound.
okay.
Yeah, so
Okay, sorry about that. It's probably
That's
hitting my
right.
collar. Okay.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks, Greg.
Yeah.
So, Greg, your art has won multiple American Art Awards. What do you hope people feel when they experience your work?
I just want them to feel something. It's not that I want them to feel a particular thing. I want them to look at, all art, not just my art, and feel something. We're saying something. I watched a YouTube video last night. They were trying to pick best portrait artist of the year, and they had to paint in 4 hours, and they had people that were sitting for them. And what stood out and what was amazing about it was that you have this time crunch, which is really difficult, but everyone has a particular style. And it's the style, it's not the actual accuracy of the painting, it's the expression of creativity that makes it special. And I think that people don't always understand that when you're uniquely creating something, you have a certain way of doing it that's unlike anyone else. We could have 1 million people in the room and all the paintings would be different. And so it's the people that are more comfortable with their personal expression that can be looser with the brush that end up getting a better result. And that's exactly what happened when I watched this video and I got to see the portraits. And the people that were tighter, that were trying to make it look exactly like the person, were not the people that actually move forward as the other people that were, more expressive. And I think that the more expressive you are, the more you feel, with the art. I don't feel as much when I see something that's very tight in realism. I appreciate it, but I don't feel as much. I enjoy, like I said, more of the, the dreamy and the texture and stuff. But I think, as long as someone can walk in front of a Rothko and feel something or meditative or whatever, I think, that's the idea, and we all connect to different things. So I would want someone to be inspired to maybe want to do it themselves. I mean, that's the ultimate goal is to drop the fear, to let go of the ego, that it's not about failure, because this journey is all about lessons. It's not about failure or not being able to do something. People always say, "Oh, you're so talented, you're so gifted," and it's really annoying because no, I worked really hard. It's really not about talent and gift. It's about working hard. And if you played the violin for 10 years, you'd probably be good at it too. So, I painted stick figures just like everyone else. I kid you not. I mean, so many art festivals that I applied to, I did not get accepted to, and I thought my work was amazing. And now that I see the work, way back when, I can understand why I didn't get accepted. But the thing that kept me going was that I didn't see the flaw in it. I saw the beauty in it, and it kept me going. I thought my work was amazing. And unlike most artists that are insecure and they're like, shuts them down, I thought my work was amazing, and I kept creating. It was really not amazing, but I think we can all get there. I think when we're young children and we get the validation from our parents and we go do that thing more, soccer or whatever it is, we come better at it because our parents gave us validation to do it, and of course we get better. I think it's all about kind of that selection. But I think if we took something estranged to us and decided to be good at it and spend 10 years on it, we would be. So I'm not sure I believe in the talent gift thing. I kind of digressed and went all over the place, but I think that the idea is that I want everyone to not be afraid to create and to go to museum. Let that inspire you to come home and create rather than just look and kind of digest.
No, you're absolutely right. Because even with me with podcasting, when I first started, it wasn't I wasn't that good, and the more I started, the more podcasts I was doing, I was improving with each episode.
Yeah.
Even now, I'm still learning and growing and shaping the show into the format that I envisioned it. But it's been some work, and it's been me evolving and learning and growing with the podcast, and me developing my skills and developing how I wanted to structure the show eventually.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a continued learning thing. As long as we're open, as long as we don't let the ego drive and we let more of the spiritual energy drive us, and we're open to that, we will get better. We will continue to improve, and we will have more to offer, not only from ourselves, but from a spiritual standpoint of the mission that we're here to do. If we're more open to that, that mission's going to come through stronger. If we're more, if we're not, the ego's not driving so much. And so I'm trying to, like today, I haven't sold a ticket in like 2 days. I'm freaking out for my paint sip business. And I'm just like, you're taken care of, today. How's today? Today's great. Great. It's a lot of chatter. It's a lot of mental talk every day to try to get myself aligned in a good place. And it's continual. So it's the evolution of learning constantly. Even when I'm sleeping, I get ideas in my dreams. I'm continually being, molded like a piece of clay, even when I'm sleeping, which is really crazy, but it's true.
So, so Dani, as a teacher of alignment, how do you integrate astrology and movement into practical guidance?
Oh, well, I am always guided by the cycles. And when I say guided, I don't, a lot of people won't do anything unless things are aligned cosmically a certain way. And I think that's disempowering because we all have to live life. We have to do the best we can, regardless of whether the moon is making a great aspect or no aspect at all. But what I would do when I teach a pure yoga class, I'll draw a tarot card. I will do an eclipse or a moon based class that will help people to engage with the subtle body, the chakras that are particularly highlighted by where the moon happens to be, or what body parts are governed by the sign that moon is in. And that, I think, gives people, I think a light sort of guardrail. I think that, astrology is something that the ancients all sort of came up with simultaneously. You saw it, in the South Pacific Islands, in Mexico, in Egypt. All these sort of systems were arriving at the same time without there being interplay between the people. So who knows whether this was a channeled thing or whether some other force was at work. But astrology isn't really, I don't consider it as woo as a lot of people do, because it's based on geometric measurements and they're very, very precise. And if you're really dialed into it, the guy that I studied with, well, the disciple, his disciple, he was a mathematician. He was a statistical mathematician in like the 1920s, at a time when people didn't know what astrology was, and he discovered it. And he did all these statistical studies to show that these different aspects bear out in human life. He would take the charts of people like Woodrow Wilson, who was a president when 1917, 1918, whatever, all these world leaders, and say, hey, this is exactly why they did what they did. This is what was going on in their chart. So I like to take those principles and bring them into not just my classes that I teach, but also into my personal, decision, my personal living. Like right now, I'm going through a very heavy transit that's in what's called the 12th house, which is the house of this unconscious. And it's my ruling planet, Saturn, which is retrograde, meaning it's not going straight. So you got to look back at stuff. So right now, I'm in a deep place of releasing a lot of patterns that are at an unconscious level. I will, at night, I've got a very vivid dream state going on. And when I remember a dream, because 12th house stuff is happening, it's like, okay, go back to that dream. Think about that dream. Remember that dream. Ask that dream what it's going to teach me. And that's my focus right now. Now, if my focus was at the 10th house, that's career. So I'd be out there trying to really get my voice out there a lot more than I am now. I do it now because it's what I do. But my focus right now is in freeing and releasing myself. So I do that for myself personally, but then I also do that if I'm working one-on-one with somebody, either with their chart or with their bodies in like a class kind of thing. So it's kind of always sort of guiding at these different levels.
So, I Am Pink has earned awards and recognition. What impact do you want the book to have on readers?
For me, it's really about letting go. And letting go, a lot of people talk about letting go, and oh, yeah, what does that mean exactly? It means that you're walking away from something that you're comfortable or that you're used to into a very foreign, uncomfortable place, and you're trusting that you will be taken care of and you will receive everything that you need to receive within it. That's what letting go is. And I think that a lot of people, we talk about it, but do we really do it? We're kind of hanging on to the comfortable, and we've got all this fear and stuff, and we let go a little bit, or like a day or whatever, but we're not really like letting go. So Justin, the main character, I mean, he lets go. He walks away from a high profile job. He has a vacation in Kauai and he stays there, and he trusts uncomfortably almost the whole way through. He trusts, and he gets all of the rewards and the things that he could never have designed in his past life. He gets them in this new existence, and he's mind blown that he didn't have to design it. He didn't have to push it and make it be what it was going to be. It was just trust and faith and showing up. You have to take action, right? So showing up, and then it just completely had its own journey, its journey of its own. And it was really beautiful to watch that happen. And so for me, you read the book and you look at your life and go, okay, I see some similarities. I'm not my marriage, the formula of life, the marriage and these things that we're supposed to do, it doesn't always bring us that joy and happiness. I think we're forced down the road of like, get the boyfriend, girlfriend, go to college, get the house, we're supposed to do these things. I don't know why. It's just part of the stuff that we designed. But many of us, we arrive at a place at the end of it and we're like, wow, that wasn't it for me. And they're like, so now what? I've been taught, I don't know anything else, right? And so that's where the letting go and the trust and the faith. It's also following, this heart drive, this passion, this core chakra that you have of, listening to. There's a lot of messaging in there, and we deny it. I talk about this part where this woman dies. She loved sewing, but she didn't, sew in her life. She was an accountant. So she dies. She goes to, her life review. And this being comes out and says, "Oh, hi, Susan, welcome. It's nice to see you. Had a good life, and it was very safe." And whatnot. I said, "But one of the key missions for you was we wanted to find out about this sewing thing. Why didn't you sew more?" She's like, "Oh, well, I didn't believe that I could find sustenance within it. So she shut it down. I didn't believe. There, it's gone, right?" So the being says to her, "Oh, well, had you had some trust and faith in us, that we instill this in your heart, this is what your life would have been like. And they show her. And she ends up winning an Academy Award for like best costume design for this major film. She lives in Malibu with her kids. Her life is completely, completely different. But this is very true. This is not made up. If we follow a different path, we follow a different passion, our life changes. And we have a million different roads that we can be on, to make that happen. And so she avoided a main chakra road that she should have been on. And so her life was, not the life that was supposed to really play out that they gave her. So we're not listening to the messages. So read the book, listen to some messages that you have inside of you. If you're feeling disconnected, connect. If you want to let go, do the scary. It's scary. I'm not saying it's not. It's scary. Do it. Jump, take a leap. What's going to happen to you? Something really great, probably. If you want something really great to happen to you, do it.
So, what lessons have you both learned through collaborating creatively together?
Well, I don't know that collaboration is for everybody, and I am generally not a collaborator. I don't know that Greg is. I think we're both very unique individuals, and I think especially when you're a creative or an artistic type, you tend to want to sort of shut yourself off and just create. And I guard my time jealously. I guard my energy jealously. I don't want any. I'm an introvert. I don't just like don't. I can go days without talking to people. It's scary. I think I must have been like a nun or a monk in many past lives. No, it's like when the phone rings, it's spam likely. I'm relieved, like, oh my God, good. I can continue on with my life, with my creating. So I think that the universe put Greg and me together for a very specific reason, because this would not have happened between any other two people or combinations of people. So what I've basically learned is that for me, this was kind of like, the perfect storm of personalities and material and soul contracts together. Greg and I were talking about the other day that we had a soul contract to come in and do this life together because, being here is very foreign to us. We don't understand this place and what's required of us to sustain and to just be part of that nonstop energy of doing and becoming and proving and validating. So many times we look at each other, it's like, why? What is this? And so there was an ease within our relationship that allowed us to make Pink into this really beautiful metaphoric journey. And so as about collaborating, I've learned that I need to exhale into what I know to be true and to feel right. And Greg trusted me. He came up with the story and he sent it to me, and he trusted the tweaks that then became more than just tweaks as we got deeper into it together and together realized the type of story that it really needed to tell. And I couldn't have done this with anybody else because there would have been ego involved. And he would have if he was anybody else, he would have put brakes on what he wanted to do because he would have taken ego ownership of it. And maybe if he were somebody else, I would have gotten butt hurt if he didn't like what it was that I said. But we were just in complete agreement. Even the final chapter, which I completely reworked, and he first looked at it and said, oh my God, this is not what it was supposed to be. But then he read it and realized, okay, this is what it's supposed to be. And whenever he came to me with stuff, I'd be like, oh my God, you're right. Let's change this word. We don't need this. It was just this beautiful, divinely guided dance that we did that I don't think I could have done with anybody else.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be open. That's the thing. You have to be open, not let the ego drive. Let the universal energy drive. You get a better product. You get a better result. You have a better journey. It's just more rewarding. It's more successful. And so I was open. If I wasn't open, I wouldn't be collaborating. I mean, that's the whole point of collaborating is to accept someone else's point of view and to want that to be there. If you don't want that, then you don't collaborate. I personally like to collaborate. I collaborate a lot in my life. I'm collaborating with another book that I'm working on too. It's sort of like a children's all ages book. I also collaborate a lot with my business. I like to collaborate because it allows me to be a little bit more social because like I'm like really introverted. I can go, weeks, hanging out, painting. If I'm not painting, then I'm writing. If I'm not writing, then I'm at the gym. And I like just completely entertain myself. I don't need anyone. It's like, whoa. But it also is a good feeling too, that I don't require validation from the outside world in order to feel complete, which is, quite an evolution to reach that point, considering what I've come from.
So what next? What's next for I Am Pink? Do you see more collaborative projects in the future?
Oh, I see Greg and I collaborating on whatever it is we sort of put our minds to. We've talked about a sequel to Pink that I think is going to need to be told at some point, and I guess anything else. We've traveled a lot together, and a lot of the genesis for our ideas and projects will come when we're walking on a beach somewhere, which is what we kind of do nonstop. We try to get our 20,000 steps in per day, and in the midst of taking those steps, little babies are kind of conceived in our discussions and our ideas and our ideation and our talking. So we don't have anything specific. I do think there will be a sequel to Pink at some point, but like the first one, it's going to probably come about very organically and probably very suddenly, I would imagine.
When you write a book too, you have to wait to gather more wisdom before you vomit another one out, so to speak. And so I didn't know if that would happen or not happen. At the time that I wrote it, I thought, oh, everything's in there. I've expunged my entire soul. I have nothing left. And now, some time has passed, and I obviously already feel differently about that there is a bigger offering. And so, we're going to let some time pass, percolate a little bit, and then, we'll be able to offer up something a little bit more, deeper maybe. I thought it was pretty deep, but I'm ready to go deeper.
So Greg, what new directions or themes are you exploring in your artwork now?
I've always been in love with these women. Of course, all the artwork behind me too is my artwork as well. But I do these women that I'm madly in love with. They've got like elongated Modigliani type noses. They're from the 18th century. They have ball gowns and pearls, and I don't know. Well, obviously, it comes from a past life. I mean, clearly, I've been watching a lot of near death experience stuff. I now understand. I had dreams where I'm walking down a corridor with a candle and I've got this long robe and I'm looking at paintings of my ancestors. And so clearly it's from somewhere in my past, but I'm madly in love with these women. They're, erudite and from noble class, and they're just outer worldly, not from this world. But that's really what I like to paint. It hasn't been well received in the art world. I don't really care, but in the art world for gallery stuff, I paint landscapes that are I consider like pretty boring. It's not where my passion is. People buy them. They think they're pretty. Uh, I'm okay with that, but I don't think art is, that's not all encompassing when it comes to creating art. So, and I'm expanding Stir Up the Paint nationally. Stir Up the Paint has a strong spiritual component to it. So I want to continue to inspire. Since the pandemic, we've really been just beaten. We're downtrodden, beaten. We just need some uplift. And so those events are not about just walking someone through a painting, but it's really about kind of shifting that alignment, getting inside people's heads and giving them a little something, planting a little seed. That's really the goal. And eventually I want to run like 20 markets, where I have a bigger footprint of inspiration. I feel like it's smaller now and I need it to be bigger. The universe is telling me to. Hey, Greg, your mission. I'm like, I get it, but you haven't put me on stage. So what's the deal? So we fight a lot about, the conversation of where you want me to be. And they're like, just show up, Greg. I'm like, got it. Got it. So I'm just trying to show up bigger and not design so much in my head about what it's going to be and just show up. That's why Dani and I decided to do more of the podcast too. It's like, hey, Dani, let's show up. We're really good at hiding under a rock and being with ourselves and entertaining ourselves. That's great. We could do a master class on how to love yourself at the end of time. This is great. But the goal is to share the wisdom and information with the world. We're all supposed to be sharing with each other. I think that's the masterclass too. So
Yeah, definitely.
yeah.
So Dani, what new books or offerings are you working on that excites you?
I'm working on my third book. It's called Sargasso, which is named after a very interesting body of water, the Sargasso Sea, which is sort of part of the Bermuda Triangle where there's like no currents. It's still in the old days of the the galleons. They would get no wind. They would have to like throw horses overboard in order to get enough weightlessness to keep moving. It's a very strange place. And the subject matter of that book is the year that I spent taking care of my husband and going through that journey with him as he got sick and then subsequently passed away. And it's when I say excited, that's probably the wrong word because this is a very difficult book to write. But I think it's necessary because there's this myth. Well, it's so strange because in our society, we're scared of death. Everyone's trying to look younger and anti-aging as if aging is the worst thing could ever happen to anybody. Frankly, I like aging because it means I'm wiser. It means I'm still here. But that's like aging is like the worst thing you could do, and death is even worse. They just want to put it away. Whereas in other countries, they really revere older people and incorporate them into the community. But especially then there's that. But then there's also people getting sick. When people get sick, all of a sudden the people taking care of them are viewed as these heroic people. Everyone's fighting these heroic battles, and nobody asked to fight this battle. Nobody asked to fight a battle against a terrible disease, and nobody asked to fight the battle that happens when you're taking care of somebody. And so it's a very raw and real account of what it was to go through that. And what I'm hoping is that people who have gone through that, they probably shouldn't read it while they're going through it, but afterwards, because what we don't talk about in that experience is what happens afterwards, which is the guilt that you get racked by. Did I do enough? Did I do too much? I'll tell you, death does a number on people. It does a number on family relationships, on finances, on your own mental health as a person who is in the process of being left behind. And so I want to address those things in a way that I hope is relatable to those that are going through that. And let's face it, the way the demographic is right now, most people are older. So most people are either dealing with, the sickness or death of a spouse, of a parent, of a sibling. And I think that there's a real need for people to be able to address this in a way that isn't sugar-coated the way that we want to sugarcoat everything in the society. So while excited might not be the word, I'm hoping that this is going to be an offering that will be received by the people that need it.
Yeah, the near-death experience videos I've been watching maybe 30 or 40, 50 of them actually. There's a lot of offering there. I highly recommend that people just check one out or two or three or whatever on YouTube. They call them NDEs, where people have died for 20 minutes or 15 minutes and they come back and they describe what they go through, how they're changed, how they weren't fulfilling their mission. There's a lot of education in it. They all talk about how they don't want to come back, that it's really intensely incredible, the transition. Now, if all of these people are saying pretty much, the same thing, similar things, you have to start to get in tune with that and realize that, maybe we are a consciousness that transitions, and maybe, death is not the finality, it's the finality of humanity. And then why do we come back? And what does that mean? What's the challenge in the education? Why do we choose to design a certain mission? Why do people choose to be in a human body that's incommunicable? Because they want to receive that education that they can't get where they are. And so there's a lot of learning. I just highly recommend too, if just to take a look at an NDE on YouTube. There's one that I really like about a woman. I think the title is "I Was an Atheist Before My Near-Death Experience," and she talks about, she arrives at this place. She's like, "This isn't supposed to be here. What's going on?" And so it's interesting to be a non-believer and then to come back and believe, and not only that, but have her mission shift, how she behaves, her career. Some people shift professions. Oh, you're supposed to be a teacher. They come back and they get a degree. They do something, they completely pivot because they could have done that before, but because they think it's more important, they're hearing it from like a higher power or somewhere else, and they feel that this is bigger and more transformative. So they do it because they feel that's their mission. But it's helped me a lot. I have a lot of health anxiety and mortality stuff. So it's helped me kind of like bring it down a couple notches and realize that, okay, most likely I am going to another place and I hear it's really incredible. I'm going to trust and have faith with that and move forward with that because it feels better. And now I know it to be true. I've seen enough of them to understand that I believe that to be my truth now. And so now I also share that with other people. Go check it out. I'm just saying, look at it, check. You can decide for yourself, obviously, but it's really helped me in my life feel like, I'm more in touch now with the mission, hearing messages, what I'm supposed to be doing rather than just sort of doing what Greg thinks he should be doing. It's very different because the spirit has a mission. And if you're in touch with the spirit, you both can drive together. And I think for me, it's more meaningful. You can decide.
But for someone who's listening who feels creatively stuck, what's the first step to unlocking the expression?
Well, I think that most people that are, unhappy have some form of creative block. And I think it really depends. It's not really a one size fits all. I can only speak, maybe Greg can speak differently because he's a writer, but he's also a painter, which is what he predominantly does. For me, as a writer, I have to write. And so I journal and I use the astrological cycles to kind of guide me and to give me prompts that I can then delve into a little bit more. But when it comes to my actual writing of my own books, I have one rule. I have to show up on the page every day. And there are some days when I just don't want to do it. And I just show up and I clean up a piece of grammar or I take a word and I change it from one to another. That's the first thing. And another thing that I do, and this is also very uniquely personal to me, is the element of water is very important to me. Astrologically, I have a lot of earth, a lot of fire, some air, very little water. So I need to physically be in or near water in order to get to that deeper place where I can get creatively unblocked. I need to be in the ocean, even in the shower. If I have a problem, I'll get in the shower and all of a sudden, okay, this is what I need to do. Or just immersed in the swimming pool. When Greg and I went to Kauai together, I was always in the ocean, always snorkeling. It's just that's where I need to be. And as Greg can attest, or at least the first time we went there together, I was going through some really heavy emotional stuff. And so it's almost like I was compelled to just be in the water and like not talk, not do anything, just sort of be in there and let that ocean draw out of me all the toxicity that had come from a very specific set of unpleasant experiences. So I think that when we do what energizes us, what we do that brings us joy, that is when the breakthroughs occur. So my first question that I always ask people when they're blocked is, what gives you joy? I don't care. Is it a cat? Well, then go to a cat shelter, pet the cats. What gives you joy? Just do the thing that gives you joy, and then that joy is going to blow back to you, and you're going to be like, okay, now I can do the next indicated thing to creating something creatively sustainable for myself.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of fear there too for a lot of people that they just feel like, I don't know why I'm doing this. I can't do this. I don't know where it comes from. Like, I'm not good at this. I can't do it. Or someone told me that I'm not good at this. They rely on the external, to sort of validate their experience. And maybe they're not even doing it for themselves. They're doing it to become accepted into a group or to belong to something or whatever. But creating is really a personal journey, and it really is that. It's a learning. Creating is a learning. It's not anything other than that. It's an expression of who you are, and it's a learning. It's not for other people to say it's good or not good, and it's not for yourself to judge either. It's just something that, as a human, it's beautiful to be able to do this. It's part of our journey. We should all be creating. And people say to me, "Oh, I'm not creative." I'm like, "Yeah, but you cook and you align your plate in a certain way. You put on your makeup and you dress yourself." So this is all creativity, putting colors together and putting things, designing things. This is all creative, and we're creative all day long. But the thing that shuts us down is either something happened, in our past, or mostly we just don't believe. We really just don't believe that we can do it or that we're good at it or whatever. And a lot of people come to my events, or they even call me, is this painting looks really advanced. Is it really for a novice painter, for a beginner? In my mind, I'm going, why is that important? That's not important in my mind, but I can't say anything. I'm like, yes, it's for a person that's never painted. Absolutely, because I know they're going to get a great result. But they rarely come in, ready to experience the journey. So I always say, hey, you guys, it's about the journey, not the end result. And they're like, oh, because our paintings aren't going to be good. No, I'm really actually telling you the truth. And actually, if you applied that to your life's a journey too. So if you're so end result oriented in your own life, that's going to suck too. That's going to be really difficult and hard. So, let's focus on the journey and the learning, and then let's hope to get to a certain place or whatever. But we're so result oriented that it just clips our wings and holds us back because we're designing too much. We're hanging on. We're married to what that thing is going to be, and we're not allowing anything else in to make it better. And so when people ask me that question, it's just like, just show up, express yourself. Is it so hard to ask you to have a good time? When I do the playful paintings, like the Halloween ones and stuff, and really fun ones, no one buys a ticket. Oh, I don't want to put that up. It's about fun. Like, we forgot what it's like to have fun.
Yeah.
And it freaks me out that people don't want to come and do a playful something that's like the drunken snowman they have bottles and they're falling over or whatever. They don't want to paint it. Because they're not going to put it up. It's not, something that's, tactile for them or whatever. So it's just really interesting. This new technological age has been really, really great, but we're losing many, many things in it. And one of them is we're forgetting how to have fun, and creativity is part of that. And it doesn't matter if it's great or not great or whatever. What matters is that it makes you feel good. It should be fun. We're stuck in what we think it should be. We're just stuck in a lot of ways. But the fun thing, it bothers me because people they don't want to show up to an event and have fun. And that's really what it's all about. And so when they're there, they're like, oh my God, I didn't realize it was going to be so much fun. I'm like, oh, well, what did you just sign up and you were going to be tortured? Is be really stressed out? I was going to force you to no, it's just about expression and creativity and freedom of not being judged. This is what we want more of. We don't want to be judged. We just want to walk through and have fun and enjoy and not be judged. That's it, and share a little love and get a little love, and then we check out. I mean, I believe it's that simple, but we make it so complicated sometimes. Anyway, I'm rambling.
All right, guys, this has been wonderful. I've had a great time talking to you guys. But we've come to the part of the show where you guys get this the screen, and I get to plug away and let everybody know where they can find you guys and all your work and your websites and everything.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, well, I'm easy. My website is under construction, but I'm available as Dani Forrest on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Substack, Blue Sky, and if you follow me there, then I'll tell you the minute my website's up and running.
Awesome. And also you can get the book, the I Am Pink. You can get the book on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. It's all over the place. But the easiest place if you want to is just go to GregoryCopploe.com. It's COPP as in Paul, LOE, GregoryCopploe.com. Dani's got a nice bio on there too. So you can get the book there. You can find out, more about me. I even have a painting page now that I added. So I have more of my professional work on there too. So that's it.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for being guest on the show, man. This was wonderful. I appreciate
Thanks,
the time.
Will.
Yeah, our pleasure.
Pleasure was all mine. But don't leave just yet. Let me close out the show and we'll chat a little bit off the air. But thank you once again for being some great guests. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Will.
Yeah,
thank
thanks
you.
for having us.
All right, everybody. Another episode is coming to an end. I greatly appreciate everybody who stopped by, left comments. If you catching the replay, thank you. Please subscribe if you haven't. If Gregory and Dani's story inspired you, go check out their book, I Am Pink, and explore Gregory's art and Dani's teachings. And if you know someone who's struggling to find their voice or their creative spark, share this episode with them. Sometimes sharing someone else's story is the first step to finding your own. Stay creative, stay authentic, stay wise. You know how your boy Wize does it. Peace out.